Hello YouTube, it's RJ the West here. Welcome back to another video of my Warframe story. We're gonna pick up where we left off. Alad V explains to Samantha and Reggie. Okay, let me guys recap. Samantha and Reggie were captured by Alad V. So Alad V explains to Samantha and Reggie that Reggie's Site 9 is going to make a good target practice and then he turns to Samantha quietly saying that her mesa is beautiful and it will make a good decoration for his bedchamber. Samantha and Reggie have been taken they were taken to separate holding cells. Samantha can actually hear Reggie screaming as a large corpus crewman is beating him with his pruva. Alad V leaned down closer to Samantha. His grin twisted into something deeply predatory. Your little friend's Site 9 frame will make excellent target practice for my new proxy line, Alad V chuckled, gesturing dismissively towards the lifeless metallic husk of Reggie's warframe. He then turned back to Samantha, his voice dropping into a quiet, chilling purr that made her skin crawl. But your Mesa. Oh, she is a work of absolute art. So sleek, so precise. She will make a beautiful decoration for my personal bedchamber. Samantha felt a wave of intense revulsion slam into her chest, the horrific threat burning through her analytical mind. Before she could speak, the corpus crewmen moved in. They pinned both operators, strapping heavy neural dampening restraints to their wrists and dragging them roughly out of the laboratory. Hours later, the nightmare worsened. Samantha and Reggie were thrown into separate cold steel holding cells deep within the bowels of the Jovian gas city. The walls were thick, but they couldn't block out the brutal sounds of captivity. Through the heavy ventilation grates, the absolute silence Samantha definitely craved was shattered. She could hear Reggie screaming. The cold, emotionally distant 29-year-old operator was being broken. A massive corpus crewman stood over him in the adjacent sector, rhythmically beating him with the high-voltage pruva. The sickening crack of the electric baton and Reggie's raw, agonizing cries echoed through the dark corridors. Samantha pressed her back against the cell wall, her hands trembling violently as her restraints she realized were complete in her restraints as she realized they were completely out of options. James and Wendy learn of Samantha and Reggie's capture. This angered James greatly. He told Wendy that he was going to the Lotus alone and demand that he rescues them. James explains that he can perform a rift jump to the gas city, secure Samantha and Reggie's warframes, and rescue the two operators. The Lotus denied James, saying it's too dangerous. Out of frustration, James walks out of her chamber, but not before Lotus reminding him of what happened to the original Limbo. James spoke and held back anger, saying he is not like Limbo. The news of the capture hit James like a physical blow. When the tactical network flashed the critical red alerts showing the severed narrow links of Mesa and Site 9, his high IQ brain instantly calculated the horrific implications. Alad V has had them. A roaring wave of pure fury shattered James's usual quiet restraint. His fingers twitched violently against his legs as he spun around to face Wendy in the somatic chamber. I'm going to the Lotus, James said, his voice trembling with a cold, dangerous intensity. Alone. I will demand authorization to rescue them. James, wait, Wendy said, reaching out to stop him. You can't just barge into her main chamber. She'll lock down your ship. I've already mapped the solution, James interrupted, his eyes wide and hyper-focused. The Lotus thinks we're trapped by physical distances. She is wrong. I have finalized the special equations. I can perform a true rift jump directly from this sector into the Jovian gas city. I will manifest inside Alad V's laboratory, secure the Mesa and Site 9 frames, and extract the two operators before the corporate sensors can even register a displacement anomaly. It is mathematically absolute. Without waiting for a reply, James forced a direct projection into Lotus's grand inner sanctuary. He materialized before her glowing purple silhouette, his chest heaving, his posture rigid with defiance. He demanded the immediate deployment order. The Lotus looked down at him, her face completely obscured, her tone remaining chillingly serene. Request denied, James. The mathematical model you are describing is unstable. Though a localized rift jump across planetary sectors is too dangerous, I will not authorize a mission that guarantees your destruction. You are denying the rescue because of your own tactical paralysis, James shouted, his voice cracking from the days of suppressed pain and anger. They are being tortured. Samantha is in danger. I can bypass the entire Jovian fleet. Enough, the Lotus commanded, her voice echoing with absolute authority. Realizing she would never grant him permission, James sneered back and turned his back on her. He began to walk out of the projection grid, his fists clenched so hard, or so tight, that his knuckles started bleeding. But before his silhouette could completely fade, the Lotus' voice dropped into a dark, warning tone. Do not be foolish, James. Remember the archive data. Remember what happened to the original Limbo? When his concentration fractured mid-jump, he miscalculated his displacement metrics. He was torn apart. His components were scattered across the vacuum of the entire origin system. Do not let your emotional attachment to Samantha lead you to the same fate. James stopped at the very edge of the chamber. He didn't turn around. He stood completely still, his breathing ragged as he held back a volcano of raw, unfiltered anger. I am not like the original Limbo, James spoke, his voice dropping into a low, terrifyingly quiet whisper that cut through the Grand Hall. He was calculating alone in the dark. I have an anchor. I'm going to save her. James asked Wendy about the possibility of interdimensional travel with Limbo and Wisp. James explains to Wendy that Wisp functions similar to Limbo and how she works, that how she can teleport. Wendy understands what James is saying. I'm going to turn my AC facing the other way because I'm starting to get cold. uh, let's see. Limbo and how she can teleport. Wendy understands what James is saying and helps him. James made a breakthrough and knows how to perform a rift jump safely. James asked Wendy to ready their warframes. While in his limbo, he asked Wendy, while in her wisp, to take his hand. Limbo and Wisp successfully rift jumped across into the gas city undetected. James immediately returned to his orbiter, his mind moving at a furious pace. He didn't lock himself away to brood. Instead, he pulled up a massive holographic projection of Wisp's and Limbo's combined energy matrices, turning to Wendy. Wendy, I need your cognitive input on a specific cross-dimensional theory, James said, his voice sharp and intensely focused. Your frame, Wisp, functions on a parallel plane to Limbo. You don't just move through space. You open localized tears to a sun-like pocket dimension. Your Will-O-Wisp and Soulgate rely on quantum tunneling. You teleport by collapsing the distance between the two distant dimensional coordinates. Wendy looked at the glowing data lines, her playful demeanor completely replaced by the serious tactical mindset she had recently embraced. Right. I open a pocket shift my frequency, and snap right to it. Exactly, James said, his fingers flying across the console, weaving Wisp's solar telemetry into Limbo's mathematical rift models. The original Limbo failed his rift jump because he relied on a single linear calculation. He had no external coordinate anchor to pull him out of his own math. Wait, hold on a second. The original Limbo failed his rift jump because he relied on a single linear calculation. He had no external coordinate anchor to pull him out of his own math drift if his own math drifted. But if your wisp acts as a quantum beacon, tethering my rift plane to your solar dimension, we create a stabilized geometric bridge. We eliminate the margin of error. Wendy smiled, a spark of her old confidence shining through, but with total clarity. We use my sun to light the path through your dark. I get it, James. Let's do it. Let's go get our partners. With the breakthrough finalized, James looked at her with absolute resolve. Ready the warframes. We launch immediately. Moments later, the somatic chamber hummed with immense power. James and Wendy initiated transference, their minds embedding into Limbo and Wisp. The two frames materialized on the launch deck of the orbiter. The ship's navigation computer screened with unauthorized system alerts, but James overrode them entirely. Limbo stepped forward, his sleek, top-hatted helmet tilting slightly as he looked at Wisp. He held out his metallic hand, palm upward, waiting. Wendy. James's voice echoed through their private neural channel, steady and perfectly calm. Take my hand. Maintain your solar resonance frequency. Do not let go. Wisp floated forward, her faceless, glowing visage locking onto his. She reached out and wrapped her fingers tightly around Limbo's hand. The contrast of their energies immediately caused the air around him to crackle with golden and radiant white sparks. James didn't just snap his fingers this time. He unleashed the full, calculated weight of the new matrix. Limbo and Wisp violently imploded into a single point of blinding light, completely vanishing from the orbiter. They didn't travel through space. They ripped through the fundamental fabric of reality. A split second later, in the deep, heavily guarded sectors of the Jovian gas city, a tiny, silent ripple appeared in the air of a secluded maintenance corridor, without a single alarm triggering, and completely undetected by Alad V's advanced sensory grids. Limbo and Wisp stepped out of the folds of the rift. They had successfully crossed planetary distances in a single breath. They were inside the fortress, completely hidden and ready to strike. All right, guys, this is actually where I actually got to the part of the story. So I'm actually gonna have to like add more as I go. James and Wendy immediately began to map the city. Uh, map the ga- map the yeah map the city. Wendy points out to a sector oh, where it's where there is a possible prison section. James, all right, reads it out and comes up with a plan. Eventually, James and Wendy find Reggie's Warframe. Yeah, it's always asking me to spell it for veggie. Warframe. Uh, Eventually, James and Wendy finds Reggie's Warframe sitting idle by an arsenal of corpus weapons. Alright, here we go, guys. The absolute silence of the rift enveloped them as they stood in the hidden maintenance corridor. Outside the golden boundaries of Limbo's dimension, the massive automated factories of the Jovian gas city whirled and groaned, completely blind to the two Tenno intruders. James immediately raised Limbo's left arm, projecting a localized holographic map of the entire facility directly on the air between them. The facility's layout is highly dense, Wendy. Cross-reference my spatial scans with your solar telemetry. We need to filter out the factory sensors. Wendy floated closer, her wisp frame casting a soft, radiant glow against the shimmering walls of the rift. She ran her hand along the holographic layout, her eyes tracing a heavily fortified, windowless node buried deep beneath the laboratory levels. There, Wendy pointed, her voice hushed but sharp with tactical focus. Look at the energy dampening field surrounding the sector. The power draw is completely flat, but the security guard rations are dense. That has to be the prison section. James's high IQ mind instantly absorbed the coordinates, mapping out the structural layout like a complex geometric grid. Correct. The prison block is isolated by three distinct black blast doors, each wired to a localized biometric scanner. If we breach them physically, we trigger a facility-wide lockdown, and Alad V will initiate a security purge. He lowered his arm, his plan finalizing in a microsecond. We will not breach them. We will use the stabilized rift bridge. I will phase us through the primary structural bulkheads into the maintenance shafts running directly above the holding cells. You will use Will-O-Wisp to drop a teleport beacon through the ventilation grates. We extract the operators from the inside out. Got it. Winnie nodded, her posture rigid and serious. Let's move. They glide through the solid metal walls of the complex, completely weightless and invisible within the folds of the rift. As they navigated deeper into the facility's lower levels, approaching the perimeter of the prison sector, James suddenly halted. Through a heavy reinforced glass partition separating a storage bay from the main corridor, an idle metallic form sat propped against a high-tech equipment rack. It was Site 9. Reggie's precision calculating sharpshooter frame was completely powered down, its sleek helmet slumped toward its chest. It sat discarded like an empty shell, surrounded by an arsenal of heavy corpus weapons, plasma rifles, and high-voltage Detron pistols. Alad V's technicians have already begun cataloging it, attaching scanning nodes to its armored shoulders to reverse engineer its precision targeting systems. Seeing the frame sitting there idle, stripped of its operator's mind, made the neural link inside Joim's somatic pod tighten with a cold, protective rage. Samantha's Mesa had to be nearby, and if Reggie's frame was treated like common battlefield scrap, the clock was running out for the two captured Tenno. All right, James. Hmm. Had asked Wendy if she can secure the Site 9 Warframe and keep it hidden in the maintenance. Oh, wait. Maintenance area where it has no corpus guards. As James used the as James used Limbo's rift to phase through several rooms, he notices the sound of screaming. James had Limbo open up a small cataclysm bubble to immobilize the damn it, immobilize the large corpus crewmen who no crewman. No, sorry guys, the phone is acting stupid. It's rearranging the words. mobilized a large crew of his crewmen and freed Reggie. Reggie explains to James that they take they have taken Samantha to a they all right they to a different cell farther away, and right Reggie explains to James that they have taken and that Alad V has her Mesa in his personal bedchamber. Secure Site 9, James instructed, his voice dropping into a low, urgent frequency. Move it move it into the maintenance shafts. There are no guard patrols in that sector. It will remain undetected. On it, Wendy replied. Her whisk frame floated forward, lifting the deactivated sharpshooter frame and slipping it seamlessly into the dark ventilation grid. James didn't waste a single millisecond. Limbo turned and glided straight through the solid metal bulkheads, phasing through the series of secure storage rooms. As he neared the prison block, the absolute silence of the rift was violently pierced. It was a raw, agonizing scream. Reggie. The sound hit James's acute senses like a physical blow. Limbo stepped completely through the final cell wall, materializing inside a dark, blood-spattered interrogation chamber. A massive corpus crewman stood over Reggie, a high-voltage Pruva raised to deliver another brutal strike. James didn't hesitate. He raised Limbo's hand and snapped his fingers. Clack! A tight, concentrated cataclysm bubble erupted around the giant executioner. James instantly locked the stasis matrix. The crewman froze completely mid-swing, the electrical blue sparks on his baton hanging motionless in the air like jagged glass. James stepped out of the rift, his real fingers trembling with a mix of fury and relief inside his pod as he tore the neural dampening restraints off of Reggie. Reggie collapsed forward, his breathing ragged, his body is bruised, severely bruised and shivering from the torture. He looked up, his observant eyes with shock as he recognized the operator standing before him. James, Reggie gasped, coughing as he gripped James's arms for support. He didn't waste time on pleasantries. His mission first brain instantly prioritized the most critical data. They separated us. Samantha isn't here. They took her to a high security holding cell farther down the eastern wing. Reggie's grip tightened, his voice dropping into a panicked whisper. And Alad V, he already took her Mesa. He moved the frame into his personal bedchamber. You have to go, James. Now. Hearing that Alad V had Samantha isolated and her Mesa locked in his private quarters made the static inside James' high IQ mind turn into a deafening, terrifying roar. As Wendy comes back, as Wendy returns, James and Reggie explain to Wendy of the situation. James, let's see. James told Wendy and Reggie to get to Reggie's Warframe and James let's see. As Wendy returned, as we James and Reggie explained to Wendy of the situation. James told Wendy and Reggie to get to Reggie's Warframe. James went to find Samantha. James eventually finds Samantha in a small holding cell where she was restrained. James is furious, and many thoughts ran through his head, fearing the worst that could that could have happened to her. Samantha explains uh, explains to James. Samantha, let's see. Samantha is very very happy to see him to see James in his limbo. Oops. And explain uh, that she's fine, but was kept in total isolation. People in our clan are waking up. Wendy floated back into the room, her wisp frame hovering silently over the frozen corpus crewmen. The moment she saw Reggie's bruised, trembling form, her playful energy completely vanished. Wendy, change of plans, James said, his voice trembling with a cold, terrifying intensity that echoed through their private neural channel. Alad V has moved Mesa to his private quarters. Samantha is locked in a high-security isolation cell down the eastern wing. She is completely unprotected. Reggie gripped the edge of the console, forcing his battered body to stand straight. I can still fight. Wendy secured Site 9 in the maintenance shafts. If you can get me back to my frame, I will. Oh, wait, if you can. If I can still fight. Wendy secured Site 9 in the maintenance. If you get me back to my frame, I will lock down the eastern perimeter and provide sniper cover. Do it, James commanded, Limbo's faceless visor tilting towards the door. Get Reggie to his frame. Clear path to the extraction zone. I'm going to get Samantha. Without waiting for a reply, Limbo dashed forward, sliding back into the absolute silence of the rift plane. James pushed his high IQ mind to its absolute limits, folding space and phasing through solid bulkheads, conduits, and security checkpoints at a terrifying velocity. Inside his somatic pod, James's brain was a screaming storm of catastrophic calculations. A barrage of dark, frantic thoughts ran through his head. He was fiercely hyper-focused on worst-case scenarios. Alad V's sickening threats about Mesa, the brutality Reggie had suffered, the vulnerability of Samantha's human body without her frame. It all crashed against his need for order. The fear of being too late threatened to shatter his focus entirely. Finally, Limbo stepped through a heavy, reinforced vault door into a dimly lit, damp concrete cell. In the center of the room, Samantha was strapped to a metallic chair, heavy neural dampening restraints locking her wrists and ankles. James violently snapped his fingers, collapsing the local rift plane as he materialized the physical world. He rushed forward, Limbo's metallic hands instantly tearing at the heavy mechanical locks on her restraints. Samantha! James gasped, his voice cracking with raw, unfiltered emotion. Samantha gasped, her analytical eyes instantly locking onto his familiar top-hatted frame. The crushing despair that had weighted her for days vanished in a pure single breath. A wave of pure, overwhelming happiness hit her chest, her heart rate violently spiking in the exact warm pattern James knew it by heart. James! She breathed, her voice trembling with relief. As the restraints snapped open, she didn't care about tactical safety or operational discipline. She immediately threw her arms around Limbo's neck, burying her face against the frame's cold shoulder armor. You came! You actually found me! James froze for a microsecond, the physical touch grounding the chaotic static in his brain. He wrapped his arms tightly around her, holding her close to ensure she was physically there. I ran the metrics, James whispered, his breathing ragged. I calculated a 94% probability of physical trauma. Reggie was beaten, Aled V said. James, look at me, Samantha interrupted gently, pulling back just enough to look into his visor. Her voice was steady, dropping right back to that perfect 110 hertz frequency that always calmed his mind. I am fine. I am completely unharmed. Alad V didn't touch me. He kept me in total sensory isolation to try and break my mind, but I just kept visualizing your math. I knew you would find a way through the dimensions. I am okay. Hearing her voice, perfectly calm and intact, silenced the roaring storm inside James's head. The nightmare was fading, but the mission wasn't over. Alad V still had her frame. Let's see how we're doing on time, guys. All right. This seems like a good time to wrap up this episode, this part of the story. I will see you guys in the next one. Take care, everyone.